Hey, it's James from Marketing for Restaurants here, and welcome to episode 100 of... Oops, I just hit something. Oh, God, soft's falling over all over the place. That's how excited I am. It's the 100th episode of Secret Sauce, the Restaurant Marketing Podcast. Let's get into it.
Some restaurants are quiet, lose money, and the owner works 70 hours a week. Other restaurants are busy, profitable, and the owners work a few hours a day. What's the difference? They have a secret sauce. Join James from Marketing for Restaurants as he helps you come up with your recipe for restaurant success. Your secret sauce.
Hello, welcome back. So I'll calm down just a little bit so I don't knock anything else over on my desk. That was a bit interesting. Really excited. This is the 100th episode of Secret Sauce, the Restaurant Marketing Podcast. And I'm excited about it because our podcast has been the number one thing that we have done in our business to grow our business from where it was before we had the podcast to where it is today. Quite a while ago now, it was actually 2015. Halfway through 2015, that we released the first episode, What is a Secret Sauce for a Restaurant? And we've learnt an incredible amount since then. You know, our company has gone on. I think we probably had about 4 people in the company back then. We're now up at around 11, I think. We've got a couple of vacancies as well, really looking to, just continuing to grow. And one of the things that I find just so exciting, I just looked at one of my data boards, our Komodos that have got all of the data of how we're going. And there's a new restaurant that signed up in the last 24 hours in Germany. Sehr gut. Really excited about that. That's another restaurant that is starting to build their database, starting to use one of our free tools. That is so cool. With all of the customers that we've got all around the world now, and the impact that we're having with restaurant owners as they really struggle to find new customers, turn them into repeat customers. Not only struggle with that, but struggle to build the restaurant business that they always wanted. Just because, you know what? We've been doing restaurant marketing for a while now, probably about 6 years. And each year, everyone keeps saying this is the hardest year. And, there's a lot of things in there that I think, are causing that. And we're going to talk about some of those today as we break down the 7 most important things in restaurant marketing success right now. And this is really a distillation of everything that we've learned. Being a data-driven company, it's really interesting to stop every now and then and reflect some of the trends that we're seeing across what it is that we do. One of the things I think is really interesting is the top 5 most popular, most downloaded podcasts that we've got. And so this is, episode 100, we've got over 250,000 downloads now, which is amazing. And the number one podcast is The Secret of Restaurant Profitability, New Ways to Look at Restaurant Revenue. Now, I'm actually going to follow up this episode with one about the 7 things about restaurant profitability that we've learned, because whilst they are in some respects married up, there's some very different things. And we've got some long-term relationships with some restaurants, and it's really interesting to, and I feel really privileged, the amount of information that some restaurant owners share with us. So I want to share that in the next episode, but I think it's interesting that was the number one episode that we've had based on the number of downloads. Number 2 was, this was episode 1. I'm always trying to come up with content that people are going to find really interesting. Now, obviously, this one's been around for a little while, but still people are downloading it every month. 8 ways to make your restaurant busy on a Tuesday night. And that's probably something that we could revisit as well, because I think this is one of those things that has changed significantly. Number 3 in our 5 top hits was your 90-day restaurant marketing plan before you open your restaurant. A lot of people look at that one, and there's some really good tips in there. I'm surprised at number 4, restaurant innovation and creativity. Now, we are doing more and more work in this space. We're asked for help with it from more and more restaurants because of the fact that I don't really think that there's a lot of great resources out there as far as innovation goes, as far as creativity goes. Those 2 words get put together very often, and a lot of people don't actually know what the difference is. And So many restaurant owners know that being innovative and creative is really helpful in their business. They're just struggling to get that framework up and running. And then the interesting thing is you see those people who've really got the nut cracked on that, and they really understand what innovation creativity is and how to build a team that's innovative and creativity. That's important as well. The last one was restaurant leadership. Steps to help you be a better leader in your restaurant. And I think I'm really glad that that is up there as well, because of the fact that one of the things that I think is a real key competitive advantage for you is when you've got great leadership in your restaurant. It means that things like churn are going to go down. If you're not burning through employees on a weekly basis, then that you're not going to be spending as much on training. And it's interesting, I think you can actually spend more in training per person because you're actually spending less time training everyone who comes through the place. And I know it's that old adage, what if you train them and they leave? What if you don't train them and they don't leave? That's a really scary thing to think about. Some restaurant owners have got that. Some of them understand that. And I think that is... this is one of those things that are making people successful. So we've got our 7 most important things. I'm certain that, well, I'm not certain, I'm 99% certain that there's going to be something in here for you that you can think, you know what, we can probably do better in this area because it's something that we're not really focused on. And these are the things that we are seeing people doing a great job with and being able to reap the rewards of that. So let's get into it with the 7 most important things for restaurant marketing success. So the first thing is technology. Now, wow. Technology has changed massively. So we talked a little bit about technology when we talked about photography and using your mobile phone. Now, I do a little bit of consulting around technology and how it changes the small businesses and how it's changing life for restaurant owners. This is one of those things that some people are really getting on board with and some people aren't. And the sad thing is, I love the quintessential Italian restaurant where you've got like the 70-year-old chef who's out the back, may or may not be a little bit cantankerous, but he's cooking up that food and you just think, man, this is amazing. This is completely amazing. All of the things that you love about, classic Italian food prepared by someone who's been doing it for 50 years, who knows all of the tricks, and you just think this is epic. The big problem is that it's becoming increasingly difficult for these guys to run their restaurant. And it's across everything. So here, I don't use a mobile phone, or I've got one of those old non-smartphones. I'm not really on top of that. That means that you're up against the restaurant owner who is using their phone as a weapon. They're using it to get the message out to all of their potential customers. They'll take a photo of something, they're going to post it up on Facebook, they're going to run an ad to it, they're going to do all of those things on their mobile phone. They are in and out in, you can do that in 2 minutes. When you do that in 2 minutes, that is marketing how it should be done, using all of the technology, because A, you've got a camera that's built into your phone, B, you've got a marketing system that's built into your phone. You've got all of those things at your hand. And I think that it's not just about marketing. It's your POS system. So, you talk to people and they say, oh, I haven't been to the restaurant for 3 days, but I know, yesterday was a really good day because I was just checking the POS details. Wow. That's a pretty cool capability to have. IP cameras, another thing that's making a big difference. You can actually see what's going on in the restaurant. You can keep a little bit of a better idea of how your customers are going. If someone's waiting too long to get their order taken or to have the table cleared, you can know that without actually going into the restaurant. That makes things a little bit nicer, a little bit easier for you when you're trying to run a business. Also, it helps you when you've got the dodgy customer who says, oh, look, there's a hair in my plate. We've seen multiple instances over the last couple of years of people who've been able to pull the video and say, well, this is you actually putting the hair on the plate. I think that was a bit unfair. All of the issues that come in with the social media war that, possibly came out of that before you pull the video, that just really melts away. And then people are really sympathetic to your story. Cool use of technology. Technology in the way that you manage your staff. There's lots of applications out there now to help with the hiring and managing, rostering. How are you managing your staff? How are you managing the costs of your staff? How are you getting those rosters out to the people so that they know when they're meant to be working? This has made a big, big, big difference in the way that people are building their teams and managing them. And, I think it's one of those things that people who say, it's really hard to get the young people to stay in the restaurant game these days. There is a little bit of a correlation between the people who aren't embracing technology, because these people want technology. They want to be able to get an SMS or a message on Facebook to say, your shift's been changed, rather than a phone call. So there's lots of things out there that can make a big difference in your cost structure, but I think most importantly in your time and the way that you deal with people. So you can be a lot more professional in the way that you deal with your customers and the way that you deal with your team. Now, funny about that, the next thing that is so important, I think, in marketing is your team. Now, and this is because they are remember the 4 Ps of marketing: product, place, price, promotion. They are part of the product, and they're part of a product, so back of house, they produce the product. And, it's interesting. I've been in restaurants where, the owner will apologize. Oh, look, I'm sorry, but, there's someone who isn't normally head chef, our head chef's away, or we've just lost our head chef. You know that they're not up to their game. So the product, the thing that you're putting on the plate in front of the customer, that is not as good as it could be. That's not ideal. The big thing, I think, though, is your front of house team, because they are part of the product. And it's amazing when you go to a place and everything is, you've got a team that's humming along. And look, I've got a little tiny story to tell you about that. So yesterday I went to a cafe called 7 Gram, and I went in there and I looked up and it was like, wow, there is like 7 people in here. And I'm talking 7 staff. There was 7 staff for a little tiny cafe. It's not tiny, but it's not a huge place by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a regular there, but I would get a coffee there. I have a meeting across the road from there, and I would go there maybe once a month. It's a pretty good place. I've seen an ex-premier of Victoria, Jeff Kennett, there. I've seen him on multiple occasions, chit-chatting with the staff. And, there's a couple of things that I like about it. One, from a product point of view, they've got their sizing, so they've got small, medium, large, and then they've got super duper, which is my kind of coffee. It's absolutely massive. So I can get a massive flat white. That's a cool thing. But the thing that was amazing was the rapport that the staff built up. So I walked in and said, like, wow, there's a lot of people here. And the guy said, there is a lot of people here. And he goes, you know what? I know what you're thinking. There's too many people here now. But he said, you know what? In an hour, we're going to have just enough, because it's going to get flat out in here. We struck up that friendly conversation. Then something really interesting happened. So I was in, my corporate uniform, which is some sort of superhero. Actually, I was not technically in uniform, because I had a red t-shirt with Mickey Mouse on it. Pretty cool. Mickey Mouse is great. It's one of those characters that really, really, really resonates with people. Actually, now that I think about it, baristas tend to love Mickey Mouse. And we're sitting there, we're talking, and one of the baristas starts talking to me, and then I realize that she has got an evil mouse, like an official Disney evil Mickey Mouse kind of thing, on her t-shirt. And so we both kind of bonded over that, shared a little bit of small talk. Now, the interesting thing was that there were 2 separate people at 7 Grams who reached out to me, as they do with other people there, to build that bond. Now, this is around the team that you've got. And my question is, what is it that you're doing to build that team? What is the vision? What is the mission? What are the cultures? How do you hire? How do you fire? How do you be a better leader, so that, because my job here, my number one job, is to build a great team. If I build a great team, then they're going to do some great restaurant marketing. That's what I'm passionate about doing. That's where I focus a lot of my effort on. Yesterday, I think I spent 4 hours straight on the phone, and 3.5 hours of that was with the team, just, mentoring, setting them up for success to do their job. as a leader, what is it that you're doing to make sure that you have got the best team possible to be doing the best work possible so that they're looking after your customers? 7 Grams, it's one of those places that you can just tell has got that buzz. And you know what? The coffee's pretty good. But I think that the people who go, and you know what, they're in a really, really tough area. I could go within 50 meters, there's probably 2 other places that I could go. Now, the coffee is pretty good, but I don't go to any other else because they're just super friendly there and I like the people there. So you got to really understand that when it comes to your marketing, your front of house team, your back of house team, they are part of the product. And looking after them, building that team of awesome, it means that they're going to look after your customers, and that's really important. Okay, so number 3 on our list is your story. And I've got to tell you that when we sit down with a restaurant, we do that initial discussion where we start to look at how we're going to come up with a marketing plan or how we're going to design a website. It is amazing how much work gets done in working out the story. So whether it is the unique historic aspects of the pub that you've just bought, whether it is the produce that you use when you are cooking, is it the technique, is it the chef, is it the customers that you've had there? There are 101 stories that are out there, and too many times people just say, we are a typical Chinese restaurant. We are a typical Thai restaurant. Well, you know what? I think we can probably do a little bit better there. And the thing that I say is that if that's all you've got, if that really, really is all that you've got, then we probably need to be thinking about changing what it is that you do so that there is some story. Because people are genetically wired to like a story. They love hearing that story. And if it is a story that contains elements that they can relate to, if it contains elements that they are interested in or want, then it's a powerful story. If it is a story that they can relate to, then it is even more powerful as a story and as a marketing tool. And this is something that just far too many people don't understand. We were looking at someone's website yesterday, and someone in the team said, they haven't done a bad job of SEO. And I said, no, they've done the technical SEO. That's fantastic. But they haven't done step 0 of the SEO process. And the guys looked at me and said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, there's no story here. Yes, they've captured the location that they're in. Yes, they've captured the type of restaurant that it is. Yes, the pages load quickly. Yes, it's mobile friendly. Yes, they've done all of these sort of things. They've made sure that the metadata and the information that Google needs to understand how they're going to use the booking system, yes, that is all in there. But there's no story, and there's been nothing done around telling Google about that story. This is just another restaurant, and there are too many restaurants. I mean, we all need to accept the fact that there are just too many restaurants. And so it was really interesting to see, because the restaurant owner then said, so, what does that mean for me? And it's like, well, tell me about your restaurant. And, it was interesting because at that point, that's when the eyes light up. It's like, wow, and that's when I get excited because you know that you're working with someone who's passionate about what it is that they do. And all of this stuff started coming out, the way that they cook the food, a little bit on where they get it from, which was interesting. But the chef, a unique story about the chef. None of that had come out in the website nor in any of their other marketing. And it was like, once again, this is one of those situations where you're fighting with one arm behind your back if you're not looking at your story. Because the big thing with your story is it then starts to break down into sub-stories, because there are some stories that resonate. There are some stories that resonate with me. There are stories that don't resonate with me. And if you present the story that resonates with me, I'm going to go, let's all go to this restaurant. It sounds awesome. And you can put one of the stories that doesn't resonate with me in front of someone else, or they will find it because they are looking for a story that resonates with them, and they will go to the restaurant. 2 very different people going to the exact same restaurant, but for 2 very different reasons. And that is because those sub-stories are different and they're attracting different people. This is where your niches come into play in a really, really big way. So, and you've heard me talk about it before, gluten-free, vegetarian, family-friendly, lots and lots of things around that. For me, I go back to the Indian restaurant that we were talking about a couple of episodes ago. Some actual real thought has gone into the menu. Some thought about the packaging of the way of their menu, like their platter options and those sort of things, so that you can get a few bits and pieces, a few morsels, and on top of that, a bloody vindaloo. That's epic. That makes a restaurant really resonate with me, and I think, wow, this is really cool. Now, their struggle, of course, is going to be how are they going to get that out? How are they going to be able to tell that story? Because they have struggled for so long by just masquerading as just another local Indian restaurant, when I would say these guys are clearly a cut above. It's the best restaurant that I've been to within 10 miles of where I live. But not getting that message out, not really understanding what their story is, not really understanding what it is that they could be doing to get that message out. And I think that this is where that work around what is it that you do is so important. When I'm working with restaurant owners, sometimes you get this, look, I know about my restaurant. Tell me what you're going to do with the marketing. And it's like, well, no. You need to go first, because I need to know what it is that you've got before I'm going to tell you how I'm going to market it. That story, it feeds into so many of the things that you can do with it. So, for instance, a Chinese restaurant, they may have gluten-free. You're then going to tell the story about why you cook gluten-free food. We want everyone to be able to enjoy our food with the minimum amount of fuss. We know there's a lot of people with celiac disease, blah, 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 blah. So you've got a page on the website that does that. You've got that signature gluten-free dish that you're going to be doing. That image of that signature gluten-free dish, that can probably go up on Facebook. You can then run an ad. Is this the best gluten-free Chinese food available? You can target people with celiac disease to see that. And then, that's how you start driving people to come in. That's one component of it. So next component, part of your story that you're cooking traditional Chinese food, maybe from, let's say, my favorite province, Sichuan province. So you've got that opportunity there to reach out to people and talk to them in their native tongue. So if someone was living in China up until 10 years ago and then they've come out to Australia and they've started their restaurant, you can have a page that is in Mandarin. You can then run an ad to people who speak Mandarin who are living within your local area on Facebook. Now, nothing gets traction on Facebook than an ad that is run in the native tongue of people. They're used to automatically translating, and if their English isn't great, then they're struggling, and it's like hard work to use it. And then they see something in Mandarin, it's like, oh, wow. Yes, this is so much easier. Oh, and so automatically as they read through it, it's nice and easy. It's exciting. They're interested. And so now we're getting to the point where it's like, cool. They are much more predisposed to coming into your restaurant because of the fact that you've given them something that really cuts through the clutter of marketing and has reached them on a psychological level, but just by speaking to them in the language that their mother spoke to them. This is why that story is so important. And this is why you need to be thinking about, if you don't have a great story, then you need to be thinking about some of the things that you're doing in your restaurant to make sure that you do have a great story. Okay, so when you're thinking about your story, a big part of that story is your menu. And I want you to be thinking about that, because there are some people out there who crush the menu. They crush menu engineering. So we're not going to talk a lot about menu engineering. We're going to probably talk about that when we talk about profitability. Please make sure that you cost out your menu before you go selling it. It is absolutely mind-boggling, the number of people who can't tell me exactly, down to the cent, how much money they are making on a dish. There are some people who might say, well, we buy a kilo of steak for this much. And it's like, or, they buy the pound, it's this much. And it's like, well, that's nice. How many pounds does a customer have? Starts to get really wishy-washy. You've got to make sure that it's all costed out. There's lots of ways of doing it, and we'll go through that at some point when we do our menu engineering a little bit. But have a think about making sure that you know what your high-margin items are and your low-margin items. Now, what is there on your menu? Because we talk about sales and marketing. We're really good at marketing. The sales component, one of your greatest sales people should be your menu. Do you have a lazy menu? Do you have a menu that refuses to sell your restaurant to people? Do you have a menu that is devoid of items that stop people in their tracks and makes them say, I have to go and eat there tonight. That looks amazing. That is what I really want. Do you have a menu that is devoid of items that when they come out to the customers, they go, this looks too good to eat. I'm going to take a photo of it and put it up on Instagram because that's how I tell people what I'm eating. What is there that you're doing around the menu to make sure that it is pulling its weight? You can potentially go too far with that. Death shakes, I'm thinking about you. Those milkshakes that it's a litre milkshake and it's got half a pound of lard in it and it's got, half a pig and chocolate chip cookies, freckles, donuts, who knows what other crazy things that they've put in there. And I find it interesting because a lot of people will say, we don't do that kind of thing. And it's like, you know what? Look, I'm kind of with you. But it's really hard to argue with when you go to a place that does milkshakes and they have a 45-minute wait. Okay, now I'm not saying that you need to jump on the bandwagon and come up with crazy milkshakes, but those people have put in the hard yards. They have come up with something that is innovative. They have come up with something that when they've listened to what their customers wanted, they've iterated and around something so that there is something with such high demand that there is a queue out the door. And it's easy to say, oh, yes, but, that's just a fad, that's just a trend. Someone has gone and put all of that effort in. And I think that there's often a big element of, snobbishness and envy when they look at those restaurants that have got those kind of things in there. There is nothing stopping you from trying to come up with those sort of items. And I think, what is it that you're doing around that? How is it that you describe the menu? Have you got great descriptions in there? How is it that you photograph the menu? We talked about photographing technology. It's easy to do. You can get that photo that people just go, wow, looks amazing, gonna eat that tonight. So do it. Make sure that you've got something there. How do you change the way that you play it up so that it looks better when a photo's taken, when it's up on Instagram, when it's on Snapchat, when it's on whatever? I want everyone to be thinking about that. Now, this really leads us on to innovation and creativity. I'm going to leave that until the next episode. That'll be the fifth thing that we talk about. So what we've talked about today, the technology, get on board with technology. I think the train has sailed, so to speak. I'm mixing my metaphors now around technology. It is going to make you more productive. It's going to mean that you've got more time to be thinking about the big issues that you've got in your restaurant. Like, building a team, what your story is, and your menu. They're the other three things that we've covered today. So I hope you got something out of it. We are at episode 100 and we have 250,000 downloads because amazing people like you have shared on Facebook when they've seen an ad come up about Marketing for Restaurant Secret Sauce podcast, or they've told people, or they've, emailed people within the industry. So for all of those people, thank you very much. We put a lot of effort in. I think it's a pretty high quality podcast. If you can, leave a review on iTunes, share someone, tag someone. The thing I love hearing is when someone comes to us and says, we'd like to use Forbes or Frollo, or we want some help with the marketing. And one of the team or me says, where did you hear about us? And they say, you know what, a friend put us onto this podcast and we've been listening to it ever since. Love that story. Love hearing it. So do a mate a favor, introduce them to Secret Sauce. Leave a review on iTunes. It really helps us to get the word out. And I will talk to you next week for episode 101. Thank you.
Want more customers for your restaurant, cafe or takeout? Every month, our marketing tools and information are used by thousands of restaurant owners just like you to help them find more customers and turn them into repeat customers. All of our tools and information is designed specifically for restaurant owners. We know you don't have a lot of time to spend marketing or learning complicated procedures, so our tools are quick and easy to use. If you're looking to increase your revenue and profits or want to work less hours, check out marketingforrestaurants.com.